Yes, what is up, everybody? I have got the beautiful Katie Jang with me. Katie and I met when I was a personal trainer at my gym. She was one of my first few clients ever. I think it was after you had Liza, actually, because
Yes.
you were looking for a trainer who
Yes. I need to get back in
the gym.
position.
Yeah,
Not even shape, just
It
back
just
into the body position.
she was looking for a trainer who was certified in women's health and specifically for women who were postpartum. And we met that way and we've been friends ever since. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself because today we've got a very important topic of boundary setting, balancing life as a mom, balancing life as just a person coming from a female standpoint specifically, but also these are tips that apply to males and quite literally anybody. We're here to talk about balancing, prioritizing your life, setting those boundaries, and being present. So, welcome, Katie.
Hi. This is so fun. I already love it.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I am a person. I am a person with a lot of responsibilities. No, I am a mom of two young kids, 4 and 2, who are just trying to figure out who they are in this life. So much energy. They wake up ready to go until their heads hit the pillow at night, and it's exhausting. Um, but also, I have a part time job as a magazine editor, and I also have a small business that I started in January of this year, an online children's clothing store. Um, and I do some volunteer work and stuff. So it this is a really fantastic subject because doing all of this and not even being good at it, but just being at it is important, and it's a real balancing act, for lack of better words.
But it is. And I use the word balance all the time because you have to. You have to balance life and you have to recognize that there's days that it's going to look this way and days that it's going to look this way.
Yeah, and for better or for worse, you still have to wake up the next morning, God willing, and do it all over again. And
Yeah.
so, where are the shortcuts you can take to make your life a little bit easier? What are the things you can give yourself grace about if it doesn't work out that day? What commitments can you make for the next day to balance it? And where can you just be kind to yourself in between all of it?
Absolutely. That was beautifully said.
Thanks.
So, we're going to start with boundaries. What does it mean to set your boundaries? How do you stick to them? And then also, how do you make sure that you're also balancing out your life? And I know that sounds like a really big ask, but honestly, I believe that if you can balance your life and you can keep the boundaries that you've set, you will feel more safe, you will feel more secure, and your life will feel better. So, I want to start off first with just what does it mean to set boundaries? I think we're in a day and age where a lot of people are saying set your boundaries, make sure that this doesn't cross your boundaries, but not everybody knows what that means. So when you set a personal boundary, you're essentially saying this is what I'm okay with and this is what I'm not okay with. Effective boundaries protect our personal space, our physical, mental, and emotional health, and they keep us feeling safe and secure. So I'm actually going to start with Katie talking about what are some of our personal boundaries. Like what would you say are some things that for you are a hard this is what keeps me sane?
Well, I think as I've gotten older, um, I've been able to be more comfortable in setting my personal boundaries, which has
Mhm.
been very empowering and very um, satisfying in a way that I didn't know was possible when I was younger. I think a lot of that had to do with um, having to grow up and be more responsible, having kids, and going through some serious hard times.
Mhm.
Um, but I think one of my recent boundaries, and really since kind of you and I met, is putting my personal health forward.
Mhm.
Um, I was so able to push it to the side, and now I'm having to put it forward because things hurt. I don't. They hurt, and
Yeah.
are kind of breaking down a little bit. So that's been something that I'm not willing to compromise on anymore.
Mhm.
Um, I'm also more confident in saying no. My no
Yes.
boundary is a lot stronger, and
Yes.
standing up for what I believe in.
I think one thing that I admire the most about Katie is that when she's passionate about something, it doesn't matter how hard the fight is, she's willing to do it. Like there's been so many things that you've told me that you've done and like rallies you've gone to or events you've gone to and you'll come to the gym like wearing the shirt that you did and you'll be like that was wrong and that bothered me. And Katie even had a really big discussion with a friend of hers that ended up coming into this conversation where she realized, I love you and I love this friend, but I don't love what you're saying right now. And I can just I definitely agree that when you have to say no or when you stand up for what you believe in, you do it with fidelity.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I mean, and it's anything from bigger issues that I just feel strongly about, or things that are going on in my own life that I feel strongly about,
Mhm.
and I have to draw a boundary. But it's
Yeah.
hard. I mean, it I can't say I always do it bravely,
Or
but I
perfectly.
or perfectly, but I I do it because now I have um, these two kids who need to know that it's
Yeah.
important to stand up for what you believe in, and stand up for people who need you to stand up for them in
Yes.
ways that they can't. So I think that's been a huge motivation in figuring out my boundaries, um, is being responsible to two little people and wanting them to see what I hope is right and what I
Mhm.
believe in is right. Um, and then hopefully they can, grow up in that kind of mentality. I but it's also it's a day to day.
100%, which is why we're also talking about balance
Right.
because something I talk about so much is, any way that you can make health and fitness and your sleep and taking care of your health overall a priority. But I know I would be lying if I just said it can just happen. It takes work, it takes time, it takes those boundaries like Katie said of this is important to me and I need to make it happen because that's what boundaries do. They protect us and they ensure that we are keeping our promises essentially. It kind of reminds me of like with teaching too. Like we teach our kids, and like Katie said, she's a mom of two. We have to teach our kids, and I teach my students if you want this, then you need to do
Mm-hmm.
this. It's the same thing for adults. If I want something, I need to set a boundary to ensure that I get it. And if I want something, I need to keep my promise to myself to ensure that I get it. Because, like we said, the definition of our boundaries lets you know with what you're okay with and what you're not okay with, but it also protects your physical and mental health. And it can go way more past workout stuff. Like Katie said, she stands up for things that she knows are right because at the end of the day, I don't think people really understand what you want unless you have those
Right.
boundaries.
And you're able to voice them.
Yes.
That I mean, I am famously passive aggressive. I think it's genetic, but it but I'm finding my voice more, and I think that comes with confidence in knowing that the boundaries you're setting for yourself are
Mhm.
because you believe in them and because you
Yes.
feel strongly about them. Um, and so that I think it's just kind of a trickle effect or a from the middle out effect, um, where you start to gain strength in other categories of your life when you start to put the important things forward that you realize that you care about, whether it's
Mhm.
yourself, your family, your friends, your work life balance,
Yes.
whatever you decide is going to be the most important, other things start to kind of fall in line. And again,
Yes.
it's super easy for something to get knocked to the side, especially working out. I think
Yes.
it's super
Yes.
easy to um to let that one slide. Even today, the kids were like, "When are we going back to the gym?" I was like, "I promise we are." But I've been doing other, I've been walking every day, and I've been
Yes.
making that a priority even before I sit down at my desk and start to work because it's now become a thing where it's cleared my head a little bit. It's
Yes.
not I'm not walking a marathon. I'm just doing a loop, but
No.
it starts the day off, and I look forward to it now because it's also
Mhm.
some alone time that I get to listen to some podcasts
Yeah.
or other stuff that I've been wanting to listen to, and then I can sit down and be a little more focused.
Mhm.
Like today I didn't walk, and so the rest of the day I was a little more aggravated than I probably needed to be.
But that's okay. And let's switch it now to when you need to keep a boundary because it's hitting a point where your mental health is being tested. Maybe you've got a coworker who
Mhm.
is rubbing you the wrong way. Maybe a friend of yours is bothering you too frequently. What advice would you give to somebody who is like, you know what, I can do set the boundaries when it comes to, you know what, I need to keep my promise to myself and I need to make sure I do this. But what do you do when you feel bad or when you don't want to hurt this person's feelings, but they really are bothering you? What advice would you give to that person?
I'm a big believer in the I me approach, or that I feel this way when this happens, and I'm hopeful that we can find a resolution. Like I hate conflict.
I think a lot of people
Yeah,
do.
oh gosh, it's awful.
It's a very uncomfortable feeling
Yeah.
and it makes you feel triggered in many ways. And for some people, it brings up conversations of the past that they've had, and it's a not good feeling. In my school, we use the zones of regulation,
Ooh.
which are four colors: red, yellow, green, and blue. And essentially, blue is like the sad, down, shy, quiet, or depressed feelings. Green is the good, calm, ready feelings. Red is like, or yellow is like you're a little elevated. Like now I'm getting uncomfortable. Maybe it's something's affecting me, but you don't know that yet. And then red is like angry and the big feelings. And now everybody knows how I feel because now the way I'm feeling is making you
Mhm.
aware and it's now affecting you. Um, so I think conflict makes a lot of people yellow or red.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny too because as much as I feel like I've grown in figuring out my boundaries and where my line is and all of this stuff, my patience has has gotten significantly smaller for the nonsense, right? I mean, there's so much
Yes.
nonsense out there, and I just don't have the patience for it. And I don't,
But I think you shouldn't
yeah,
because, like you said, it's nonsense.
and I
And
don't
that,
have the time to waste on the nonsense.
no.
So a lot of it, if it's somebody I love dearly, or if it's friends included that I love dearly, or somebody who I have to be around a lot, I definitely approach things in a more a kinder way. But if it's people that I don't need to have in my life, then I kind of just I just kind of cut it. And I it hurts sometimes, like, I mourn the loss of whatever relationship that was, but
Mhm.
it's part of my boundaries. Like I
Mhm.
can't continue to give the energy to something or somebody or anything that sucks my little bit of energy that I have left at the end of the day. And that
Absolutely.
sounds terrible. And I still, like their posts or heart their Instagram stories or whatever. But I sometimes it just has to end in natural and
Mhm.
that's also part of this boundary drawing, drawing and like and putting yourself first. So I feel bad, but
But
I
you
feel better
shouldn't.
for myself
And that's
because
the most important thing.
and my family. I'm better for my family when I don't have all of this unnecessary weight
Mhm.
hanging on me.
Yes. I think it makes you think about life. What is, like you said, what is the most important thing for you right now? Is it pleasing this coworker of yours or this friend of yours or this person in your life? Or is it making sure that you are well enough to take care of your family, to take care of yourself? T- Are you coming home every day exhausted and drained and tired and crying because you can't stand this situation? Or are you willing to cut the cord? And are you willing to put your big girl pants on, put your big boy pants on, and realize that's not working for
Mm-hmm.
me anymore? I need you to do this. And another thing we use in school too is we'll say, I feel blank when you blank.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to blank. The end.
And if
So,
elementary school kids can learn that, then we can certainly do that as adults.
absolutely. You literally led me right into my next thought. And I think it's important to remember that we teach these things to little kids because they're skills that they're supposed to have when they're adults.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to put up with all the bullshit that so many people put up with in our world. And we live in a world with a lot of stupidity. We'll just say that. Well, there's a lot of stupidity. There's a lot of selfish people. I Katie and I are definitely the type of people that try to look at the world with a glass full approach rather than what is it, half full instead
Mm-hmm.
of half
Half
empty.
full.
Half full. It's not fully full. I wish it was. I wish
I
it
can't
was.
be that sunshine and
It's
rainbows all the
it
time.
is not. We try to look at the world coming from a half full approach rather than a half empty approach. But there is those people that my therapist calls the battery drainers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care whether they're doing it intentionally or unintentionally. They are battery drainers. I used to work with this one person and she started to become obsessed with me. She wanted to hang out with me all the time. She wanted to see me all the time. She wanted to buy the same clothes as me all the time. And it was very uncomfortable. And I had to draw that boundary. I cared about her. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want anything, I didn't wish her any ill will, but it was uncomfortable for
Yeah.
me. And if we're going to use those colors, it made me yellow because I was not okay with the fact that she was copying everything. It was flattering in a way,
Sure.
but it was uncomfortable because now she's coming to work in the same clothes as me. She is commenting on all my things. She is bombarding me with texts. She
Mm-hmm.
is
It's a
calling me
lot.
all the time. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it was taking away my energy from being able to be with Ryan and with my family. And the reason we tie balance into all of this is because it is like a balancing act. I want to find a way to be polite to her, to be kind to her, to be there for her, but not to the extent that she wants from me.
Right.
So I had to set those clear boundaries with her and say, hey, I enjoy our time, I enjoy our company, but I'm not available to do X, Y, and Z, or I am not available to answer your calls after X time or your texts after X time. And sometimes it's not that clean and pretty. I mean, thankfully she understood and she was like, "Cool, no problem." And we moved on, but not everybody's going to respond that way. I think a lot of people are going to also respond with aggression,
Hmm.
or they're offended because they don't see it the way you see it. So it can then make you feel red. And they're feeling pretty red.
Right.
But I think the main thing is no matter what, you have to still fall back on, this is about me.
Hmm.
I am in charge of my life, and I am in charge of making sure that I take care of myself so that I can take care of my loved ones and I can prioritize. Like we said, whether it's something as simple as keeping your promise as going for a walk every day, or as big as protecting yourself from a bully at work. You're kind of in charge of that, and that can be the scary
Hmm.
part.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Absolutely. Absolutely
Nobody wants to
terrifying.
be a full grown up.
No.
It's very terrifying. But it is more freeing in the sense that like you have more control over your life, and that's been really satisfying. I mean, it's taken a long time to get here. Then there's always the backslides. It's like that shoots and ladders game. Like sometimes
Yeah.
you jump ahead 5 levels and you're feeling really strong. Then you have one bad day and something goes wrong, and then you slide
Or
right back
somebody
down.
says
And
something.
I can go from being glass half full all I want to real quick battery drainer. And a lot of it has to do with with being a female. Um, and those few days beforehand, because then I'm like,
Yup.
oh, that's why I was in a rage. But um, it's again also finding that balance of like, and I think some of that comes from eating healthily and not drinking and taking care of your body and all of that stuff. And I had a wedding that I was in this summer, which was causing a lot of stress and anxiety,
Mhm.
and also causing other things to go astray because of that stress and anxiety. So I've that is over, and it was beautiful and wonderful. But I feel so much lighter now. It's
Yes.
weird how your body can just play such games with you with especially with stress and anxiety, and
Mhm.
I don't know how to get rid of stress and anxiety. I wish I did, but being able to acknowledge it when it's happening has helped a little bit,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think. It's tough. It's tough.
Your body has to be like your best friend. I
Yeah.
learned that in Mexico, and I went to Mexico only a few months ago, and honestly, I wish I learned that early on, like, way earlier, because your body wants to communicate with you, and it is communicating with you, whether we are aware of it or not. And I wish there was a way that we could just snap our fingers and our stress was gone and the anxiety was gone. Coming from somebody who has had a diagnosed anxiety disorder for years, I've always wished that. I
Hmm.
mean, it is so exhausting to go through the regular day-to-day anxiety and then have to worry about, how am I balancing this? How am I setting these boundaries at work or at home or with, parents or in-laws or family members? I mean, it can then hit another point where, like Katie said, it takes this toll on your body. And now you're not a glasses half full type of person. You're a F the world and screw this and screw that type of person. But I also want to normalize that, because we are not meant to
Hmm.
constantly look at the world in a, it's a wonderful world type of way. I
It's
wish we
impossible these
could.
days.
I wish we could. I wish we could. That is what I'm trying to do on here. I try
I
to
know.
normalize life.
It's true.
But at the same time, you are 100% right in the fact that we can make it better with the things that we can control. We can make sure that we take care of ourselves, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of others. Then at that point, you're a glass empty
Yeah.
person.
Right.
It's not half full, it's just totally empty, and you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So you have to do those things to take care of yourself, because then you can't take care of other people. Like Katie said, you got to eat right. You got to drink your water, do the basics things that the doctors ask you. Like, I know you could go to the doctors and you could be like, oh, my stomach hurts. And I think one of the first things that they will ask you is, well, what'd you eat today?
Hmm.
When was the last time you went to the bathroom? Have you had enough water? Things like that. And it's not because it's silly, it's because are you actually taking care of yourself? And taking care of yourself is setting boundaries,
Yeah.
and it is balancing the craziness. And there is no perfect answer for it. But, with this podcast, we just want you to remember that you're not alone. And we want to provide you with tips to make sure that you feel more equipped for if you have to have these heavy conversations and you feel like you can handle it, because here you've got two very normal people who live regular day-to-day lives that we have to go through all of this, and we just don't want you to feel like you're
Yeah.
lost.
I'd say two two things that have really kind of changed my outlook on things. Um, my dad died almost 2 years ago, and somebody told me when I was going through the motions of everything to just stay present. Don't think back. I
Mhm.
mean, the memories, of course, but like, don't go down the road of like, well, what if, what if, what if? Nothing would have changed what happened. And to not look too far into the future, because you're going to drive yourself nuts on the what if in that direction, and what am I going to do, and thinking about like the next holiday, the next birthday, whatever. And that's been really helpful, especially in the chaos of everything that's going on in the world. And you watch the news and it just all feels like it's going to shit. And how are you supposed to raise kids in this environment and all this stuff? And I have to
Mhm.
stop myself constantly and just think, okay, well, but what am I doing for dinner tonight? Or like, where, like, what are they going to wear to school tomorrow? Like,
Mhm.
it's so easy to get lost in the what ifs and the what's going to happen, but we owe it to ourselves to stay in the right now,
Mhm.
because it's so easy to spiral, and I know what's happening when I'm spiraling, and I sometimes just have to let myself come to a slow stop
Mhm. That's
before I can rein
okay.
myself back in. But what I've been starting to do lately is I'm kind of on this weight loss journey with I did the app that you see on the TVs all the time, and it's been helpful, but part of it is weighing yourself every day. And
Mhm.
you know weight fluctuates so easily, and it's so easy to get hard on yourself.
Mhm.
But I look at the scale for that day, I put it in the app, and then haven't I don't think about it again. And then I do what I'm supposed to do. I take my walk, I eat well, I have a dessert if I want it, if I've
Mhm.
all the other things line up and fall into place. I drink my water. I blah blah blah.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks. Um, and then I tuck that away for the next, and then I look
Mhm.
at the next day, and I realized that if I just took it day by day, I I went to bed and then I woke up and I did the next day, and then it got easier to kind of stay in that present mind frame. Um, and I'm still going like, well, what about the holidays, and what about
Mhm.
what am I going to do for Mac's birthday? What am I going to do for this? And it's easy. I still get myself stressed out, but I'm not. I don't spiral as much as I used to. I still spiral,
But
not
you
as much
have,
as I used
and that's
to.
okay. I mean, and my coping mechanism with stuff like that is I have to laugh about it,
Yeah,
because like you said, we can only be in the present.
yeah,
And especially when you've gone through loss like you did with your dad, and everybody has gone through some kind of painful event in their life that has changed them.
hmm
We always will. We can't change that. The I completely agree. The best thing you can do is to be present and to allow yourself to feel those emotions you're feeling.
Oh yeah,
Allow yourself to have the day or week where you just did not drink the water.
hmm
You had a soda, because you know what? That week
stop
was
beating
not,
yourself up.
yes, that week was not the week to
Yeah,
do it. And as much as I am an advocate for doing all these things that you're supposed to be doing. And I'm sure my listeners are like, we get it. Drink your damn water. Go for your walks. I will say that until the world falls apart, but I will also say that you need to put yourself first.
Yes. Be kind to yourself.
Yes. And sometimes that means we did not drink the water.
Right. And normalize talking about it to your friends. Normalize telling your friends to be kind to themselves if they're going through something. Normalize shit happens. It sucks. And it's okay to be in your emotions and to be in your feelings. And I think that when you find the people who you can say that to and who say it back to you and encourage you despite those bad days and vice versa. I mean, shit, like then it's great. Like I met two girlfriends just last year through preschool, and we've become very close. And you know, one of them, their child is having a rough intro into preschool.
No.
But he walked in yesterday, smile on his face, and we celebrated it together. We were both crying because it was such a, you want to lift each other up and support your successes and be there for the down moments. And that's also super important. Don't be afraid of being there for somebody in their down moment.
I would say the relationships that you have with the people who stay for the down moments are the most important relationships. There's a old quote that's like, if you can't handle me at my worst, you do not deserve me at my best. And I think that comes into play for this type of thing so much, because you cannot balance your life and you cannot keep your boundaries if you do not have a support system.
Yeah.
I think.
And that support system is going to change during those hard times. And that's also okay. And it's part of life. It's part of how it happens. And I think as long as you're receptive to that, and it hurts, I mean, it really hurts, but you also have to forgive people, because not everybody can handle supporting somebody through something awful, and that's okay too. But so you just kind of have to prioritize and set boundaries with that when it like it's the boundary line is always going to be changing, and you just have to be willing to change with it.
Yes.
And that is important, I think. Being willing to go with where the line goes. And you'll surprise yourself too, like, oh, I didn't know I had that in me to set that boundary, but I like it. Or, oh, I think that boundary went a little too far. I'm going to pull it back a little bit. I'm going to look at how I really feel about it. And then I'll reset that boundary. And that sometimes comes with apologizing to people that maybe that boundary was too extreme, and I acknowledge that, and I'm going to work on that, and that's fine too. Or sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, that wasn't hard enough. Here's my new boundary. I know you thought I was okay with this. Turns out I'm actually okay here. I hope you can meet that boundary too.
And don't be upset if they can't, because what that actually does is that shows you the real person that they are. I think one of the most disheartening things that comes with setting boundaries is finding the truth. Finding out that what you were afraid of is actually true. I mean, even with relationships like your partner, I'm thinking back to a time when there was a guy I dated that I very, very much cared about. Before I met Ryan, I really thought that I was going to end up with this guy. And I started to realize that I had to set boundaries with him, in the sense of not the kind of boundaries that you would think. It was like, I will hang out with you and I will spend time with you and do all these things with you. But we've been dating now for 2 years. And if you want to keep this up, I need you to call me your girlfriend. And that's a boundary. That's a boundary.
That's a fair boundary.
It's not what you would think, but it was driving me personally very nuts.
Yeah.
And at first, that was not a boundary I had. I was like, you know what? We're going to take this slow. I don't even know if I had boundaries with him
Right,
at the
right.
time. I just wanted to be with him. But I think that's important to recognize too is that when you say the word boundaries, it's like we said, it's just what are you okay with and what are you not okay with? And knowing, like Katie said, that it will change over time. You just have to maintain that relationship with yourself, know what you want, and be true to yourself. Become more aware of the things that make you feel comfortable and uncomfortable. And going back to the story with this guy, he left me after that. He was like, oh, then no.
Yeah.
I don't want a girlfriend right now. I was happy with what we were doing, etc. And it hurt
Yeah.
because I realized in that moment that he was not the person I wanted him to be. A lot of people say, like, oh, that means you're not the person I thought you were. And that's true. But now you've found out the truth.
Right.
And the beautiful thing is it led me to Ryan because I
Right.
would have never met Ryan if I kept chasing after him. So whether it is a relationship that's, like your partner, or if it's a friendship or a coworker, I mean, even you can even have healthy boundaries with your
Hmm.
spouse or with your kids. I mean, tell us, do you have any boundaries like that for Mac and Liza?
I feel like we talk about boundaries every second of the day.
But
Um,
that's good. You're educating them from now to become
eh,
aware of themselves and what they want, what
yeah.
they need, and what they're okay with and what they're not okay with.
Yeah. Just over the weekend, we went to a birthday party on a Friday from 4:30 to 6:30. Let's normalize Friday evening kid birthday parties. It was
Okay.
great.
Oh,
It was
perfect.
amazing. They played, they ate. All I had to do was take them home and put them in bed.
Very nice.
Normalize
Okay.
it.
Good to know. Put it in the universe.
Right, and put it out there. But there was, he's 4.5, and kids are playing rough now, and it's just, I think it's part of being 4.5, and so I had one little boy come up to me and say, Mac pushed me. And I said, thank you so much for telling me that. I will go and talk to him. So I pulled him out. We had this conversation. I said, and if any, I said, we don't push our friends. And on the flip side, if anybody pushes you and you don't like that, you say, stop doing that, please.
Hmm.
And if they don't stop, then you come in and get me, and we have this same conversation. And so I had him sit with me for a few minutes just to take a breather. He had some water, and I saw him go back in. It was a bounce house, and saw him go back in, and not a minute later, I saw him put his hands up just in front of his, and I heard him say, "Please stop doing that." And I was
Oh,
like, "Whoa, you do listen!"
yay!
It was such a mom win. But
Good.
then I made sure that I acknowledged that I told him that that was exactly what he was supposed to do,
Good.
and reinforced that positive message. So, but it's a lot of boundary conversations, especially being 4.5, about his body,
Oh, yeah.
and his body versus other people's bodies, and it's a lot, and it's a lot that um, I didn't know you had to have this early.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with
Oh, God, you're
with
going to
kids.
tell me.
I know. Well, and same with Liza too. Like, I mean, she's 2, and we have to have a lot of conversations of like, we don't hit our friends, and we don't spit our friends.
That's all right.
Um,
I've got a 5-year-old I'm working with right now who I my struggle with him is teaching him other people's boundaries.
mhm,
So he does not understand that they're not okay when I do this,
yeah,
and trying to find different ways to educate him on other people's boundaries too. Because quite frankly, I don't want to say he has no boundaries, but he doesn't have your classic
mhm,
boundaries as a 5-year-old. If you put your hands on him, he doesn't care. He thinks you're playing a game. So he wants to put his hands back on you.
yeah,
And what his boundaries are more so look like I'm going to run away from you and laugh at you because I didn't like what you said to me. And so it's not so much what you would think of, but the hard thing for him is teaching him that, but you know what? Other people don't like that.
Mhm.
So it goes both ways, like teaching your own kids how to advocate for themselves, but also helping them understand what other people need. And I think that's also a conversation that adults need
Mhm.
sometimes.
Right. And because it's different in every household, right? So
Hmm.
also learning how to deal with that without putting anybody else down or
Hmm.
insulting anybody. Also, because these kids are sponges and will regurgitate anything you say. Um,
100%.
there was a playground game that he was telling me about that I didn't love how it was being played, and I mean it was a tough one because I don't want to make him feel like he can't tell me things. Again,
Hmm.
he's 4.5. Um, I don't want him to feel like he's in trouble, like he did anything
Mm-mm.
wrong because he hasn't. But I also wanted to get the point across that like this isn't a game that we are going to be comfortable with or that we really want to play. And so I said, why don't you suggest you use something else to
Hmm.
play this game? If it's a version of hide and go seek, how about it's with water balloons or
Yes.
with beach balls or
Hmm.
just use your imagination in a different way and suggest this,
Hmm.
and maybe that'll help. And if it doesn't change anything, then tell me and we'll keep talking about it and we'll figure out a way to do it.
Or
So
maybe these aren't the people you want to be hanging out with.
that too.
Because
That
even
too.
as adults, I know that there's times when something works for you because you are raised this way and you want it to be this way. But then the other person might be saying, well, no, I work this way and I
Hmm.
operate this way.
And
Like
this is how I was raised.
correct. And you
Fine.
have to respect that
Hmm.
too. So I think another important point with boundaries and balance is understanding that I can still have my boundaries and respect you.
Yeah, I think that's been a big thing to figure out.
I don't think
It's
there's any perfect way to do
no,
it because there's also certain boundaries that you have to set that maybe you don't respect the person
right.
now, but you can decide that based on those boundaries. Like if this person is doing something where it is just simply it does not follow your values, you are not okay with it. Like something I'm thinking about is like a classic example of a teacher. People think of this like calm, quiet, happy, put together person. But sometimes teaching doesn't look like that.
Hmm.
And it comes with yelling and it can come with some not pretty things. And there's been other teachers then that walk by rooms like that and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that. And that's fine. So maybe that's not your friend at work
Hmm.
then, but you still have to respect that person at the end of the day. Now, if there is a person who is teaching and she's yelling and she's hitting the kids, and this is all hypothetical. This is not a situation that I've seen, but she's doing things that, or he's doing things that are morally wrong, then no, you do not have to respect that person. So I want to kind of separate those two things. But if it comes to just my mommy lets me play this game,
Hmm.
but my mommy doesn't let me play this game, that can be a hard line, especially for kids to understand.
Right. So I I just I tried to suggest pivoting
Mm-hmm.
the game and see what happens. And the next day, I picked him up and they still were playing the game that way. And I said, okay, well, just keep suggesting you play it a different way, and we'll just keep working on that. It's also like the first week of school. I didn't want to get anybody in
Right.
trouble.
Well, and
And
you could also suggest to him too, or have him suggest to his friends, I don't really feel comfortable with this
mhm,
game. So going back to the I feel statements, I
right,
feel uncomfortable when we play this game. I need us to pick another game because I do love playing with you.
right, yeah, and And ultimately it did change to something else
Oh,
because,
good.
4.5-year-olds have the attention span of
Of a bird.
dog seeing a squirrel. Um, so it has switched, and I have not heard it going back to that. But it's just an interesting. I think it's also made me be so much more mindful of where I stand with my
Mhm.
own boundaries when I'm
Ooh.
now having to hopefully raise two people who will be a good influence on society, and it could all go astray. I mean, nothing is set in stone, so you just have to do the best you can day by day, and then hopefully the next day goes well too. And that's all you can do. Control the
Yeah.
things you can control.
Be present.
Be present. Let go of the crap you can't control. I mean, deal with it how you have to deal with it, but like, don't keep it all bottled up inside.
No.
Watch Bravo. Enjoy your life. Drink that glass of wine if you want,
Hmm.
but just be a good person at the end of it all.
Give yourself grace.
Right. Eat well, get exercise.
Do all the things that you
do the
can.
laundry, go grocery shopping, do all the things.
And that's the
Be nice
part
to
that people
yourself.
hear, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's such a big list, and I can't do it all." You're not supposed to.
No.
You are not supposed to do it all. I'll ask you one more
Yeah.
question. When do you think it really became important to you in your life to start setting boundaries? Because I know for me, it became important when I think honestly when I realized it was affecting my friends.
Hmm.
When I started to lie about things because I wanted people to like me. And I just wanted my friends to stick around. And then I realized that they were catching on to the fact that I wasn't being true to myself and therefore I wasn't keeping my boundaries. And they were like, well, then I don't want to be friends with somebody like you.
Hmm.
Do you think you had a moment in your life where you realized it was time for Katie to put her big girl pants on and start setting some boundaries so that you could experience more peace?
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say the most defining time was when my dad died, um, and it just wasn't an option anymore. Um, Having kids too, like it just wasn't an option to not have boundaries anymore. Um, but there was a moment where I think I started to say to myself, unless I'm willing to say what I'm thinking to this person's face, don't have these thoughts. It's so easy to like get caught up in the hectic of the day or the gossip or the this or the other or your frustrations. If you're angry at somebody, you bitch about them and say mean things that you don't necessarily really mean, but it comes out. And so I started holding myself more accountable, not because I was wrecking friendships or anything, but I wanted to be the person who was willing to say it and have that conversation with you rather than have it behind your back. And
Mm.
it made me look at myself a lot and say like, if you really feel this way about these people, do you need them in your life, or can you set boundaries with these people? Do you need to be doing XYZ in order to have fun with this person, like it just kind of all started to fall into place. um, and I don't know really how to explain other than like I just try really hard now to make myself accountable for everything in life. Like
Good.
now it's not my boss's fault that I ate that bowl of ice cream because I had, like no, I wanted the ice cream, so I'm gonna have it, and then I'm not
Yes.
gonna feel bad about it. Or, is it was it a stressful day or this memory or this whatever that I had too many glasses of wine and now I, feel hungover. No, it's my fault. Like I
You're
could have.
owning up to your actions.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if that's come with age, if that's come with grief, if that's come with responsibility, or if that's come with experience. I have no idea. But what I do know is that it has helped me set those boundaries. It's helped me be accountable, and it's helped me get me closer to who I want to be. You
I
know,
love
I wouldn't say, and I don't
that.
think I'll ever be the ideal version of myself, but I'm sure as heck not who I was in high school or college or my 20s or my 30s. And I'm happy, I'm grateful for that because I've taken all of those experiences and put it into this person who I am now. And I do feel like I'm getting closer to being the person I want to be.
So, two things come to my mind when you say all of that. Number one, I totally agree. You, if you are thinking things, it's important to remember, like if you're thinking angry thoughts about a coworker or about a friend or about your partner, think to yourself, am I just angry right now? Or do I genuinely want to say those things to this person? Because there's also that's not a bad thing if you want to say it to
Mm-hmm.
them. I think depending on what it is. And we got to find a way to make sure it's respectful and kind. The teacher and me saying all that. But also, maybe I should say these things to this person. My kind of theme on this podcast is if you've got a problem, what are you going to do about it? And I definitely think you gain this sense of confidence in yourself. You definitely feel very uncomfortable. Maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling very, very
Oh,
yellow when
want
all
to throw up all
I
the
want to throw up during all that. And I'm like, oh my God, this person's gonna hate me. It's gonna go this way, it's gonna go that way. But like we mentioned earlier, you might find out, wow, that was really good. And now I feel really good with this boundary and you're proud of yourself. And that's not something we mentioned yet because at the end of the day, this is to support you.
time.
And now you've gained this sense of, damn, I can do this. And the second thing I wanted to note is I don't know if we ever do find our very best self. I think our life is supposed to be this journey
Mm-hmm.
where we are constantly learning until the day we die. And I don't think that you ever hit a finish line of I'm done learning.
And I would hope not, right? I mean,
Yes, life is
I,
about learning and it's meant to be
yeah,
a journey. And every day, I think it's not that you're closer and closer to your best self. You're just learning more and more about
right.
yourself.
And you can change
You're
who,
supposed to
right.
change.
And hopefully for the better. And,
Hmm.
please for the better.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, my Google search history is wild with all of the things because I hear something
Yes.
and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let me just figure out more about that. And I'm not by no means an expert in anything, but I know a lot about I know a little about a lot of things
Hmm.
because I just think it's so interesting. And why wouldn't you want to try to relate to somebody rather than fight against them?
It's so much
Why?
more important to grow and so much
Right.
more beneficial to grow and change and evolve and learn about others and learn about what's going on in the world so that that way you can find what you are and are not okay with.
Right. And you can become more empathetic or compassionate to the things that you believe in. And I do think it's important to know about the other side. You don't have to
I would even
learn about it
say
necessarily, but you should know about the other side.
I would say it's important to learn about the other side so that way you understand
Right.
what are you okay with and what are you not okay
Right.
with? Because if you don't, then you kind of fall into that category of being naive.
Right.
And that's definitely not where you want to
Right. And then it's also okay to acknowledge that you might have been wrong about something,
go.
but then you
Hmm.
learned more about it and you educate yourself more and you can really form your own opinion. So
Yes.
and I think standing strong on your own opinions is super important, and that's something that has really changed for me in the last 3 or 4 years. Is feeling good about standing in my own opinions and not really giving a shit about the the crowd or the popular opinion. I mean,
Hmm.
it's okay to stand strong in your opinions when you're passionate about them.
I think something you find too, since we've mentioned, letting go of people and realizing that your life has to change, is it usually does change for the better.
Mhm.
When you do start to put in the work to take care of yourself, to learn about yourself, to find out what you're passionate about, to find out what you are and aren't okay with, the pieces do fall into place.
Mhm.
You then start to build friendships with the people that do have those same values and the people that do respect you and, like you said, will be there for you in those rough moments. Those people do show up at that
Mhm.
time. And then the opportunities that are meant for you do come to you. I think the problem is when you're really struggling, it's because you haven't found yourself yet. And when you haven't found yourself, the world around you will continue to not make sense.
Oh, totally. Totally. And that was me for a really long time. I don't want to say that you have to go through some hard stuff to get there. I wish that wasn't the case. But you have to be willing to go through it and acknowledge the shitty stuff and be grateful for the happy stuff. Um, and then just be open to it. I mean, I think it's the hardest thing to be open to who you are, good, bad,
Mhm.
ugly, pretty, kind, nasty, all that stuff. Um, it's life is weird.
It is weird, which is
It's so
why it's a
hard.
balancing act
Yeah.
because everybody hears all of this to-do list of what you need to do to have the abs, what you need to do to be a great mom, what you need to do to be successful at your job. But it needs to be normalized that it is not easy. But there is a reward at the end when you do your best.
Hmm.
So keep those boundaries. Know that when you balance things, it's not an easy job. And just be present. Take it one step at a time. Take some time to reflect on yourself and think what matters to me, who matters to me, and what do I need to do to make sure I'm spending my time wisely. And I think if you can just keep that promise to yourself, keep your own boundaries within yourself, you will find things will start to make more sense.
And drink water.
And drink your water. And drink your water and go for your walks. Because if there's anything I will ever continue to promote, it is go for a walk and drink some water. I don't care if you lift weights. I don't care if you journal. I just need you to drink some water.
And moisturize.
Oh,
and sunscreen.
yes. And we're just going to give you more things.
Good moisturizer and always wear sunscreen and sunglasses. That's it. That's all I got.
And that's it. Well, thank you for doing
Thank
this
you.
with
This
me.
was so fun. It has been a dream come true to be on a podcast.
Oh my God, yay!
I love podcasts. I love listening to them, and this has been so much fun. Thank
Yay!
you.
All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. We believe in you. You got this. If you need any more support on how do you set boundaries with certain situations or how do you balance the boundaries you've got set and you need to change them, my inbox is always open and I'm always here for you guys. Just let us know.
Bye.